Hi everybody. In this video we're going to talk about preparing an open vocal score, and we're going to use Green Grow the Lilacs, which you can find by clicking on the link in your syllabus on Canvas. Let me play the soprano part for this score. The soprano part here contains the melody, and we'll listen to see how many phrases we hear by the end. I count 5 phrases. The phrases generally align with the punctuation. On top of this mountain where the lilacs do grow, comma, end of phrase. And over the valley where still waters flow, comma, end of phrase. I met my true love and now she's proved true, period, end of phrase. So we changed the green lilacs for the red, white, and blue, comma, end of phrase, and then a repeat of that phrase, and the voices hum there. So to begin this process of putting the voice parts together, you'll want to examine each voice part phrase by phrase and determine the range of the phrase. So in phrase 1, you have basically a pentatonic phrase there. You have no half steps in that, you have no fourth scale degrees, no seventh scale degrees, and so it's a kind of a pentatonic. And that fits under the hand very nicely in a 5-finger position, slightly expanded. I'd put my thumb on the C, second finger on the D, skip. Make a little wide spot in between your second and third fingers. Let me show you on the piano here. A little wide spot between your second and third fingers, and then each finger goes on an adjacent white key. So that's a pretty easy phrase to play in a stable hand position. The second phrase is much higher phrase, but if we look at it, it's got a more narrow range. It's just a fifth. It's the range from G to D. And so that is also a stationary hand, 5-finger position. And for the word and on the pickup to measure 5, I'd put my thumb there. The whole phrase is doable without moving the hand at all. The next phrase, though, is much wider. That's a really enormous phrase for the soprano to sing. It's a 10th from high F all the way down to low D. So you have to decide inside that phrase, how am I going to finger that? I'd probably do the first half like that, and then shift my hand, requiring a little turnover at the end. There are lots of different ways you could do this. And now shift with an expanded hand. You could do it that way with less crossover. The point is, make a decision and write in the fingerings for the phrase for the right hand above the soprano notes. Make sure that you're writing the fingers above the soprano notes. Practice those. Practice that phrase so that you're using the same fingering every time and it's secure. For the fourth and final phrase, it's again a kind of a pentatonic phrase, and so it can be played in also in an expanded stationary 5-finger position, like that. So 3 out of the 4 phrases, 4 out of the 5 phrases are stationary. Again, writing the important fingers, the ones that show you where the hands move, above the soprano notes. Go through that process for each of the 4 voices. Alto, tenor, and bass. The phrases are all aligned. They're in exactly the same places. You'll find different ranges of phrase for each voice part. One thing to think about when you're preparing these open vocal scores is that the soprano phrase is almost certainly to be played with the right hand every time, all the time. The bass phrase is almost, or the bass voice is almost certain to be played with the left hand all the time, every time. The inner 2 voices, the alto, sometimes will be played with the right hand, sometimes it'll be played with the left hand. If you're asked, for instance, on a proficiency to play the alto and the tenor, you want to be able to play that right hand, or that alto with your right hand. If you're asked to play the alto and the soprano, you'll want to be able to play the alto with the left hand. So these 2 inner parts require 2 different preparations. One for the right hand, one for the left hand. The outer voices require only 1 preparation. Soprano, right hand, bass, left hand. To keep things clear, I would make sure you're writing right hand fingerings above the notes, left hand fingerings below the notes. That's especially important for the alto and the tenor voices, so that you keep those clear. I would also probably go in and color code so that I can quickly read into the next staff and not be mixed up as to which voice part I'm reading. When you begin to put these voices hands together, I think I'll do that on a separate video. This one's getting a little long, so check back on a separate video for that information.